Hello there. Good day. Buen dia. I hope everybody is feeling wonderful today and feeling the increasing and accelerating vibrations. This is Alexander Rossol, and this is my first video that I have been guided to make for those who are awakening and doing everything that they can to self-develop, to self-empower, and to activate themselves and evolve themselves into what Carrie Ellis terms the 21st century superhuman. Others have called the new golden race of humanity, etc. And yet others have said incorporating or merging with our higher selves into these physical bodies and ascending our entire selves, including our physical bodies, into the higher dimensions as the selves that we already are and always have been in those higher dimensions. So we actually are simply returning to who we truly are. And we are right now in the thick of the final stages of this process. As most of you can easily see in yourselves and in the world around you, among your friends, your family, even in the geopolitical scenes and the economic scenes, everything is morphing, changing radically, and it's accelerating, and it is coming to a head, and we will reach that head within the next few months at the very latest. So, what I would like to do in this first video is give you a technique that I quote studied for decades, but in the end actually stumbled into spontaneously as far as the results of it go, the manifestation of visualization. And what it is it's based on the knowing that one can read all the books you want and the articles and engage in chat rooms and community forums, etc. hours a day, day after day, week after week, year after year. And all of that is good and fine because it prepares the ego mind, the human mind, for the acceptance of what is actually necessary, which is the direct experience of the higher dimensions, the direct experience of yourself as your higher self, not as your human self necessarily, as your higher self, who you truly are, and also the direct experience of what is really out there in the universe, what the myriad forms of life, of consciousness that exist out there. And you can watch as many sci-fi movies as you want and even resonate with a lot of what's portrayed there, but until you actually have the direct experience of seeing these things and feeling these things, these beings, these creatures, these structures, these ships, whatever you want, everything and anything, you really don't know. As a human being, you really don't know of their existence. You may believe in their existence, but you really don't know of their existence. And there is, and I'm not going to go into it in this video, but there is a huge chasm of difference between believing something and knowing something. In the higher dimensions, all know all. All know all. So this is why a tribesman or a tribeswoman in Africa or Borneo with no formal education whatsoever has just as much capability of ascending, of knowing the higher lives of themselves, etc., without as somebody in the West that's read 25 books and has participated in 10 weekend seminars with channelers and gone to conferences and discussed all of these spiritual issues online for the last 10 years. Because the intellectual knowledge is all wonderful and great, and I'm a recovering intellectual, so I should know. I've probably read more books, more articles, more essays, and done more research than at least 95% of all the quote light workers out there, even many of those who are leaders of the spiritual community on this planet right now. And my bookcase is over there, and just in that bookcase alone, I have approximately 50 or 60 books that I've read all of them, some of them twice, regarding these issues, this information. So, anyway, in these times, since we only have a short time left in linear time for the collective to get its shit together and to get aligned with what is happening, and to clean up their own ego messes that they've left based on all these past lifetimes and this lifetime on the planet, on the surface of the planet. I will talk about how I arrived at experiencing, seeing into the higher dimensions on a regular basis. What I describe in my blog article, Reconstructing the Starship. Now, that Reconstructing the Starship is taken from a Terence McKenna talk, MP3, that is in that article of mine, regarding what we need to do on the planet in order to create New Earth. And there are a couple of articles in there about how to cleanse your pineal gland, how to activate it, etc., etc., in order to open your third eye and be able to see personally, directly, into these higher dimensions that everybody is talking about, the 5D, 6D, etc., and see and feel after a while and interact with these, quote, higher dimensional beings that are actually us, in many cases, that are simply looking back at ourselves as human consciousness that are wearing a human body, etc., etc., of this vehicle. So that article, Reconstructing the Starship, in my blog from, I believe, 2013, talks a little bit about that. And what it is that I studied many different types of meditation. And I just recently posted an article on Facebook about that, different types of meditation. A wonderful article, Wake Up World, I think it was, about all these different meditative techniques that one can use to still the monkey mind, to quiet the mind chatter. And I personally have written 2 articles published on my blog, also called Be the Eye of the Storm, and also Stopping the Mind Chatter, with specific techniques of how to stop that monkey mind chatter, stop the ego from constantly distracting you and jabbering around in your head and trying to, get you emotionally involved and mess with your zen, and pull you out of your center, and etc. So there you go. You have the techniques. So I won't talk about those because those are published and you can look those up and read about them and start practicing them yourself if you haven't already done so. And so what I'm going to talk about is how I started seeing into the higher dimensions once my third eye spontaneously opened and I started seeing things. And I'm not going to talk about what I started seeing. I'll just mention that at the beginning it was just moving colors, just mostly a golden kind of color and then a violet indigo kind of color started moving around in my visual field years and years ago, probably good 10 years ago, maybe farther back. And that lasted for many, many years. It wasn't until 2012 that I started seeing shapes and forms and things like that. But basically, what I did was I would just be meditating, or I would just, wake up in the morning, be fully awake, or in the middle of the night, and would go into, hypnagogic kind of between state, between waking and dreaming, etc. And often it was in the middle of the day, and I would just close my eyes and be laying down and resting. And the key, such as I'll relate this to martial arts as well. The key is to actually not focus. The key is to allow these things to unfold within your visual field without focusing, consciously focusing as a human, your physical eyes on what you're seeing. It's hard to, people who have done martial arts and other things have learned what this technique is all about. It's actually it's becoming aware of everything around you without focusing on any one specific thing. In other words, you just let it unfold, let it present itself to you, and you just make all your senses, put your senses at heightened awareness. And when I started doing that, which I did spontaneously because I did martial arts for years, and I had read a little bit about, that technique in meditation, just being in your center and allowing things to unfold and reading the field, reading the energies, reading and being still, being, you could say, in a feminine kind of state where you're receptive, okay, versus masculine where you're going out, you're seeking, you're focusing, you're active. No, it's a passive, it's a receptive kind of thing. Okay, so that's how I began seeing the colors and then the shapes and then the forms and then the grid lines and the amazing geometric shapes, morphing, moving, living. Everything's moving, living like a 3D video, etc. And if you look at the artwork of Pablo Marengo, who is like the shaman of shamans in South America, and also Alex Gray, you'll be able to see literally what we see, what us visionaries see when we see into these realms. Okay, and people who have done ayahuasca, obviously, or smoked DMT, dimethyltryptamine, have, that's basically what it is, because our pineal glands excrete, among others, melatonin, serotonin, excrete dimethyltryptamine, and that is the active chemical, biological chemical that's in our brains. It's in monkey brains, it's in dog brains, cat brains, it's in all mammals' brains, all of our glands, even in reptiles, etc., etc. And that's in the articles. Also, the documentary DMT, the Spirit Molecule, discusses all this ethnobiology of ayahuasca, etc., psilocybin, and the chemical structures, all the scientific aspects of it, etc. You can see in that documentary, DMT hyphen the Spirit Molecule, free on YouTube. And that's also mentioned, of course, in my article, Reconstructing the Starship. So the reason why I wanted to give you this information, all of you, is because many, 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 many people are struggling with these issues, struggling with their belief systems, struggling emotionally because they've read all these things, they've talked, they have all these spiritual friends and light workers, whatever you call them, and they've read and they've read and they've read, but they still have doubts, they still have questions, they still haven't had a direct experience of all these things. They may have felt really good when a big wave of love energy, tsunami of love, whatever comes through, they may have felt a little bit of that, it may have had some access to it, and for moments, for minutes, maybe even for hours, felt that. But they haven't yet really had a seriously deep experience of that which we are, of that which all is made of. And even some of them that have felt it haven't actually had the experience of seeing into the higher dimensions, the light realm, the grid light, fractal light realm, whatever you want to call it. I just started calling it the grid when I first started experiencing it, because everything at first was formed by these grid lines. If you look at my Facebook page on the top, the cover photo that I put up there, you'll see grid lines in that visionary art painting, because everything is formed with grid lines, and then after a while it all starts filling in. And so now I see full color, texture, motion video of scenes, some of which look like they're on Earth, most of which look like they're definitely not on this planet. So anyway, just to give you an idea of what you can look forward to. Scenes like you might see here, it is behind me a little bit. But all is in full motion video. It's really, really, it's indescribable. And it's actually fantastic. Another side effect, talking about the final purge people are going through. They're purging all their ego, all these emotional triggers and emotional issues are coming up. Past life issues, present life issues, relationship issues, children, parents, friends, all these things morphing and changing and break all these little oversensitivity, lashing out, etc., etc. All these things, they're all coming up to be purged, to be released, because where we're going, you can't bring any baggage. And so you got to dump it. You got to dump the baggage. You can't bring any lower dimensional, lower vibrational baggage to the higher dimensions. It's not possible. It's simply a vibration. It's physics. It's actually scientific. It's physics. It has to do with vibration and frequency. For example, you cannot bring, water as water into, and fly it to the surface of the sun and believe that it's going to stay water. No, it's going to turn instantly into vapor. It's just going to vaporize and turn into a gas. Okay. That goes for any liquid. Even metal turns into, at those temperatures. So it changes state. It changes state because it changes vibration. So it's basic science, basic physics. There's nothing woo-woo, airy-fairy about it. Okay? And basically what I'm talking about is spirit science. And there are actually websites and a YouTube channel called Spirit Science. So you can, I can refer you to that regarding spirit science or the true enlightened, expanded science of the universe. You can find that there. So anyway, the reason I've been guided to make this video is because people need help, and they're reading a lot and they're going to reading this and that and the other thing, but they really don't seem to be finding the key in order to have their own personal direct experiences of these things. And so that's why I'm doing it. So I've talked about the technique, etc., and I've mentioned the articles in my own blog and a couple of other references so that you can go look it up yourself, watch the documentary. And also you might want to look at the documentary for those of you who are scientifically oriented. What the bleep do we know? Down the rabbit hole. That's also free on YouTube. And that goes deeply into the reemergence of spirituality with, quote, traditional science. after centuries of being separated, particularly by the Holy Roman Empire, which we currently call the Catholic Church, and Descartes, Rene Descartes, who philosophically separated materialism, the science, the current scientific paradigm, which is radically changing, obviously, but of materialism from spirituality. He segregated those, divorced those two. Now they're remerging because now even some of the top scientists, physicists especially, are realizing that the unified field is real, and these things do come. All creation comes from the unified field, a universal energy. Okay, and now it's just a matter of merging the terminology, because if scientists can't call it God and they can't call it love, so they call it unified field energy, or Higgs boson, morphogenesis energy thing, whatever, they just have to give it different terms so they don't sound spiritual or religious about it. But the old religion of materialistic science is dying because it has to. Because basically, that's great for technology, third dimensional technology, but it's worthless. It's worthless in the higher dimensions. And since we're already in the fourth dimension, it's got to change, or it's part of the baggage that has to be released. That old way of seeing the world, that old world view, that old religion of materialism and of denialism. Anyway, that everybody must, I repeat, must purge, must go into their subconscious, must find some technique in order to release those ancient old triggers, ego, etc. Clean out their psychological septic tanks, and before they can move on, before they can ascend, before they can become a superhuman, become a new human being. Okay, there is no choice. Okay, you cannot learn to ride a bicycle by reading about learning a bicycle, riding a bicycle. You have to get on the bicycle. You have to pedal. You have to work. You have to learn how to work the brakes. Okay, you have to fall over and fall. You have to actually do the thing in order to learn how to do the thing. You cannot simply read about it and sit there and watch other people riding the bicycles and complain about it and condemn them and sit there and say, oh no, they were fortunate, or they were lucky, or they were this or they were that, in order to be able to learn to ride a bicycle. Okay, and but it, it just doesn't make any sense. Okay, and it doesn't work. Okay, and there's no more whining, there's no more complaining, there's no more excusing yourself, no more martyrdom, no more victimhood. Okay, all of that has to go. If if you want to move on, if you want to evolve, if you want to self-empower. You cannot self-empower if you're constantly self-deprecating, if you're constantly criticizing yourself and condemning yourself and others. Okay? You also cannot self-empower. You can't evolve yourself if all you're doing is sitting around and criticizing others and attacking others. Okay? So what? Somebody claims that they have achieved something, that they have finished their process. Okay? Why do you feel, and I'm not talking to everyone, I'm just talking to certain people, of course, why do you feel that is any reflection upon you? Why do you still buy into this, capitalist competitive paradigm that has you constantly judging everything and everyone on a vertical scale? of value. No. We are all of the same value. Okay. My cats, okay, I see as of the same value. Their lives are of the same value as my own. Okay. And yours. Okay. We all, as part of divinity, as individuated aspects of divinity, of consciousness, okay, expressing through these vehicles we call human bodies, okay, we are all equal in value, period. End of debate, end of everything. However, as human beings, and as souls evolving or expanding souls, not really evolving, but expanding, and especially as human beings, we all have different skills. I cannot paint worth a damn. I can't, okay? Maybe if I wanted to, if I focused on it and started concentrating on that, I could learn better, but I can't. But hey, I can surf, all right? And a lot of other things I do really, really well, better than the vast majority of other human beings. I am a better surfer than the vast majority, at least 95% plus, of other human beings. Period. And I claim that. All right? Now, I am probably only a better pencil drawer than maybe 2% of other human beings. All right? And that's okay, because none of that matters. You see? None of that matters. Because my self-esteem doesn't come from my skill set or my performance in these human social milieu, you see. And that's where all the ego attacks come from people, is because they're constant egos, not the souls, the egos, okay, the human personalities, are constant. We are programmed to compare ourselves to other people in order to rank ourselves on some imaginary vertical scale of value, okay? This is programming from Team Dark or the ruling elite, whatever you want to call them. This is deep, deep subconscious programming over centuries, millennia, okay? Not just this last, 100-year educational system, okay? This is what has to go. This is very much a part of that old baggage, all right? If you want to move ahead, if you want to self-empower, if you want to evolve yourself, if you want to self-realize, realize your true self, okay, you must let go of comparison. You must let go of what I learned in my early 20s in marketing and sales were the 3 C's, which was like the 3 cardinal sins of becoming a successful person. Criticizing, condemning, and one other one. I don't even remember what it was because I've let it go long ago. Okay. So, and comparing, okay. Let's put comparing in there. I don't think that was it, but that's an excellent one. Complaining, criticizing, condemning. That's it. Complain, criticize, and condemn. And let's add that 4th one. Comparing, okay. Now, so if you let go, those don't work. They're not pragmatic. They're not practical. They don't do you any good. All right. Sitting around complaining about this person or that person or about, the financial system or about the ruling elite or about any of that. It has value in certain phases of your personal growth, etc. The rage, the anger. You want to tear them down, hang them by the lamppost, and all that. That is appropriate at certain phases of waking up. Usually the first phase, which is geopolitical, but then you move into a different phase of your own evolution. Bill Ballard has talked about this a lot, okay, the different stages, the different phases of personal awakening and personal evolution. And that anger and that rage and that criticism and that condemning and that separation consciousness, us versus them, that has its place, okay? That revolutionary, rebellious kind of feeling, passion, okay, has its place at certain stages. Well, time's up, folks. We need to move. If you want to move into the next phase with with those of us who are moving to New Earth, etc., you gotta let that go. You just have to let that go, and you have to move into your full spiritual awakening and evolution, okay, into self-actualization, self-realization. Because if you don't, and if you don't do it now, okay, you will move off of the upward spiral and move back into the cycle, another cycle, not here on this surface of this planet, no more. But we will move into another cycle of lessons, karma, etc., purging, whatever you want to call it, self-development, self-evolution. As a soul, that's what I mean. You'll incarnate, you'll be, consciously somewhere else, and having to go through another cycle. And I know for most of you listening to this, if you made it this far in this video, okay, you do not want to do that. You do not want to go back, okay, and do this all over again. You really, it's not the most pleasant thing you can experience in the universe, okay, as you all know, okay, especially what everyone's going through right now, okay, well, almost everybody. So, anyway, another side effect, by the way, to end on a positive note, another side effect of activating, cleansing and activating your pineal gland and opening your third eye and having these direct experiences of higher realms is that it's not just visual, is that once you open this gland, once you open this eye, once you open this portal, okay, you then start to feel the flood, literally the flood, the pouring in of higher vibrational energies, of love, of rapture, of bliss, of ecstasy, okay? And guess what? That also affects your physical body. You stop getting sick. You stop getting injured, okay, from things that should injure you, like pulling muscles and or twisting your ankle. It's physically on the pure physical level. For those of you who are very into physicality and feeling good, and feeling wonderful and having orgasmic feelings in your body, okay, this immensely enhances that, okay. Reverses the aging process. Okay, I'm a living example of this, and everybody who knows me well knows this, that I go out there and I surf for 2 to 3 hours in very large, powerful waves that most surfers of the world wouldn't even consider paddling out in. And I surf with guys that are in their teens and in their 20s primarily. There's very, very few surfers over 30 that still go out in the waves that I go out in. And so I am more often than not, the quote, technically speaking, the oldest guy out there surfing. And I'm surfing, I usually surf longer than the guys in their 20s. More hours, more time. I'm usually in the water more time than them. Usually. Not always, but usually. And there are other older guys here where I live in Costa Rica that expats from the States and Europe, etc., Australia, that also come out here and surf, and they surf the big waves with me, etc. And we got a big wave crew, etc. And a lot of them are over 30, good half dozen or so, relatively a lot, right? But this opening of this activating of the pineal gland and opening of the third eye gives you benefits, and just the simple act of meditating that opens up these glands and activates these glands and brings in the energies have direct beneficial physical effects, okay? So I'm not going to talk about twin flames and relationships and soulmates and the love that's shared and the physical flowing and things like that go on when you get two people together, that are of a similar band of frequencies, that are both in that a similar space, area, point of self-realization, of self-development, etc. But then I have written articles about that on my blog. There's a major article about that refers to one or two other articles about that. But anyway, wonderful benefits that I can't even begin to describe fully in a short video. So I'm sure there's other people that have made videos about them that talk about this. So anyway, I hope this helps. Hope you enjoyed this video. I am a self-realization facilitator. A new term I came across, which I created that term for myself instead of life coach, ascension guide, etc. I am all that. Of course, they're basically all the same thing, just different emphasis, different focus. That's all, different foci. There's another term, an intuitive healer. I am a Reiki master, and I am available for personal private sessions on Skype at very low cost, much less, roughly about half of what most others charge, where I could give people specific counseling, specific ideas, specific techniques for their particular level, for your personal, wherever you are at personally. Relationships, I've been married twice. I have two very beautiful young girls, children, daughters. I've raised handicapped foster children as well. So as far as relationships, intimate relationships, being a parent to children, both adopted children and biological children, um, I have a lot of experience in those areas as well, and a lot of experience with basically everything that is important in life. So my website, my blog site is waverider1, the number one, .wordpress.com, where you can find all my blog articles. I am Alexander Del Sol on Facebook, the one in Costa Rica. There are one or two other Alexander Del Sols out there. One of them is a Latin musician. That's not me. Although I do play guitar too, by the way, a little bit. So you can find me there. I also have done a couple radio shows with Brian Kelly, Judy Jandora back a few years ago, and also Carrie Ellis now that have been published, that are on YouTube. My YouTube channel, by the way, where the latest interview discussion was published with Carrie Ellis of 21st Century Superhuman, is one with the word one, Alexander DS. That's the name of my YouTube channel. So you can see me surfing there. You can see me jumping off a waterfall, and you can also watch the show. And then if you decide to avail yourself of my services, then you can contact me through any of those portals. Anyway, have a wonderful day as we go through this serious, deep, final purge of humanity, of the collective. Hope these tools work for you. And again, if you need any more assistance, feel free. I'm here, and living the dream in Costa Rica, and just hoping for more people to join me, more and more. The more the merrier. It's a lot of fun with the more people you get together. Let's just create a permanent Envision Festival on this planet together. All right, take care, and be well, and pura vida.